Alright, this is going to be a fun one today, guys. We've got a quick little project on how to upholster an antique looking Ottoman. It's an arts and crafts style Ottoman. We're going to do real leather upholstery with Deco Tacks. We'll show you step by step, and hey, you don't even need a sewing machine. Let's jump into it. So this is a Stickley style Eastwood Ottoman that I made for a popular woodworking issue. And as always, look for issue information in the description box below. But what's interesting about the woodworking on this is it's got lower rails that intersect at an odd angle. So do look for the issue information and check out that if you want to build this woodworking project for yourself. But today we're going to deal specifically with the upholstery. So this is a simple little project. It starts with jute webbing, various layers of padding, and then onto the leather cover with the Deco Tacks. So we'll go over this step by step, and I really think it's something that you can manage even if it's your first upholstery project. So the first step will be attaching the jute webbing with some staples and a webbing stretcher. Use scraps of jute webbing to quickly determine your spacing. A gooseneck webbing stretcher will help us apply the tension to the webbing, and there's really nothing unique about this project in the way that we're doing the webbing, except for that this arched lower rail does make you need to kind of twist the webbing stretcher a little bit so that you get tight on both sides. We're leaving about a 1/2 inch spacing between the webbing, and we'll go ahead and cut this webbing about 1 inch from the bottom of the rail. Now normally we would double over the ends of the jute webbing for extra strength, but in this case we don't want that bulk to telegraph through the finished upholstery. So we're going to leave that as a finished layer and just apply plenty of 1/2 inch fasteners. And of course we'll use a basket weave pattern for this other direction. There's only a couple specialty tools you'll need for a basic upholstery project like this, but one of them is a fine wire upholstery stapler. And the last one to finish the basket weave. Next up is a doubled up layer of burlap with corners that are notched to fit around the legs. A little bit of spray adhesive will help us attach the burlap down to the jute webbing. I just use 3M Super 77 for all my foam and batting layers. When the weave pattern on your jute webbing is this tight, this burlap layer really becomes optional. But I use it to prevent a checkerboard pattern on the bottom of the foam layer. Plus, from the underside of the cushion, the burlap and red striped jute webbing really give it a traditional look. Next comes a layer of undersized batting, and this is High-Loft Polyester Batting, and it's about 3/4 inches thick before it's compressed. Notice that this doesn't extend out to the edge of the rails. It's a little bit undersized, and this piece of batting is actually just to crown the foam, create a little pleasing effect to the shape of the cushion. So we'll cut the 1 inch thick foam to size at the bandsaw, and as we're doing so, we'll put a little back bevel on it. Of course, if you don't have a bandsaw, you can certainly make these cuts with scissors. We'll notch the foam around the corners and go ahead and adhere it to the previous layer with a little bit of spray adhesive. Now we'll add our second layer of batting, which is the same type of High-Loft Polyester Batting or Dacron that we use for the underlayer. We'll use the batting to compress the foam slightly and attach that with 3/8 inch staples. Notch this layer of batting to fit just inside the leg. And there's a fair bit of tension we're going to use to stretch this batting into place so that it comes down below the level of the leg. Trim off the excess batting with scissors or a utility knife. Ideally, you'll hold the batting about a 1/2 inch away from the leg, and that way you'll have a little room to tuck the leather under right at the corners. Mark out for a piece of leather that's 31 by 27. That'll leave it a little oversized for now, and we'll trim it in place. And we'll cut that piece out. This particular leather is a Dakota Big Bear from Leather Hide Store if you're interested in this particular color. Okay, we'll get our leather panel centered over the ottoman, and when you center this, you don't want to go at the tall part of the arch. You want to go the wider part of the arch right next to the leg, so you make sure you have enough leather to make that fit. Check it both ways, and we'll staple that in the cardinal directions. So I've stapled it at the far side, and now I'm just stretching out the slack, and we'll get a couple tacks in on this side, and then same thing across the cushion. Get it started on one side, and we'll come back and stretch out the slack from the other. If you like the overall look of the ottoman and you have all the slack pulled out, go ahead and fold back one ear, and what you'll do is you'll make a relief cut right in here at a 45-degree angle, and you'll cut down to about within a ½ inch of the leg. Okay, and we'll try that. And to test that, you bring the ears down and see if they'll tuck under without giving you a pucker up top, and I can tell we're not close enough, so we'll continue with that relief cut a little bit, cut that a bit further, and retest it. And then once you're pretty close on a test fitting and the corner starts to look pretty good, what you'll do is you'll fold this backwards and we'll trim away that excess dog ear there. And here's where that ½ inch of free space is helpful. As we tuck that leather edge back, it's now got some place to go. So just to use a regulator or a smooth object to make sure that inner corner is tucked and that you don't have any wrinkles. And once you're happy with that, you can go ahead and staple it off. By far and away, the biggest first-time DIY mistake is not cutting this relief cut deep enough. So convince yourself just by checking it a few times, but basically you're going to have to cut it back till it's almost to that inside corner. You're very, very close to the leg when you complete the cut. Then once your corner's set, sometimes it's easier just to flip the ottoman over and finish stapling things out. And you'll just start getting a feel for when you've got it. I think that's pretty good, so we'll go ahead and make sure all the slack is out and get a staple in there. And we'll work the other side. And then just trim off any excess leather with a safety razor. So normally you'd have a dust cover on the bottom of any furniture project, but in this case we're going to skip it. Think about grabbing an ottoman from the rails. Your fingers would go through it the first time you grabbed it. So don't put a dust cover on this side of the rails here. If you absolutely want a dust cover, you can put it real low in the frame and tack it to the side of the rails, but I kind of like the look of just the natural jute webbing. So the key to getting your tacks set easily is to use a cardboard template and a little awl. Just pre-punch all your holes and that'll make setting the tacks a little bit easier for you. We'll be able to use this same template on the long and the short sides of this ottoman. The main tip I can give you for driving these Deco Tacks is to use the vice grip pliers to get them started. Seems to make all the difference. Leave that on there until you start to feel the pliers contact the leather, and then drive it the rest of the way home. If you do find a particular tack that won't drive straight, just discard the bent tack and go ahead and make yourself a little pilot hole with a trim nail. Alright guys, there you go. A nice little leather upholstery project that you can do on your own if you're just willing to pick up a couple of basic upholstery tools. Remember to check the description box for information on that popular woodworking issue where we built this Eastwood Ottoman. Hey, thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next one.